first going back to meet the people who we are out to serve.
Lieutenant Colonel Solo Bojang, farm coordinator of Kanilai Farms, recently disclosed that this year President Jammeh's Kanilai Farms are likely to do better compared to the previous years. Lieutenant Colonel Solo Bojang made these remarks recently as President Jammeh's Farms in Kanilai. Ibrahim Ajar has more.
Of events at President Jammeh's expansive farms in Kanilai, with crops due for harvest, scores of volunteers, most of them from Kasmas, descended on Kanilai to help ongoing harvesting activities. With a record number of volunteers expected to follow suit, preparations are already underway for another bumper harvest on these vast farms. Personnel at the helm of President Jammeh's farms are optimistic of a massive yield, as the team took Grts around for an elaborate exhibition of the crops on 3 of the cultivations in Kanilai. The supervisor of the farms was impressed with the level of growth and performance of various crops, ranging from groundnut, millet, findi, rice and corn, among a host of others.
It is very, very expensive. Growing it is not difficult, but processing is very difficult, and then definitely it's a very rich food. I can tell you it's the most expensive crop that you can find in the market.
The demand is high.
The demand is very high, and then obviously it's very, very expensive, because a bag will cost you less than 1,500, 1,200 or $1,300.
Findi, one of the most expensive cereals in the market, is already been harvested. The field was the scene of a massive turnout of volunteers who showed great enthusiasm in the harvesting exercise. The rice field and corn farm are also doing extremely well and almost ready for harvest according to the farm supervisor. This may be the next point of duty for the volunteers. The sight of volunteers on these farms at the close of what has been a promising farming season ensures a reassuring end to a period of dedication on the chains of farms belonging to the Gambian leader, Ibrahim Jata, Grts.
An erudite Nigerian business and entrepreneurial strategist has praised the Gambia for living in peaceful coexistence with various religious denominations. Michael Oladun was speaking during an exclusive interview with Grts about his impressions of the Gambian leader and its people. We have excerpt of Oladun's interview. We'll take our first break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The deadly siege at a busy Nairobi shopping mall has ended, but the fallout from the terrible siege is beginning to surface. Leaks from a government investigation report has accused the security services and the intelligence agencies of failing to act to avert the attack, despite the fact that they were forewarned. We have more in this report by CNN's David McKenzie in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi.
Chief among them was the Kenyan government warned about the attack. According to Kenyan intelligence and police sources, warnings of an attack on Westgate Mall was provided to senior government officials in the months leading up to the siege. CNN has seen an electronic version of those reports. They describe threats to multiple targets over an extended period, including warnings of a major attack earlier in September that did not transpire. Kenyan members of parliament are expected to grill intelligence bosses in the coming days over the apparent intelligence failures. And disturbing new reports about the brutal nature of the attack. Military doctors tell us that the militants tortured hostages, severing their hands, cutting off their noses, and in some cases hanging them. CNN has seen photographic evidence on one dead victim with an amputated hand. The viciousness and calculating nature of the terrorist operation has left many here traumatized. There were hundreds of police and military here trying to take on the terrorists. This area was like a war zone. Now people are trying to get back to normal here in Nairobi. U.S. intelligence officials say that there could be further attacks by Al-Shabaab in East Africa, and people fear what could happen next.
Deputies from Silvio Berlusconi's party have walked out from the government of Prime Minister Giorgio Napolitano, setting up a major political crisis in Italy. This follows days of wrangling in which Mr. Napolitano threatened to call for early elections if he loses a proposed vote of no confidence. Let's look at this DWTV report for head details.
I don't know what Letta and Napolitano will do now, but I hope they'll manage to find a new majority to govern.
Newspaper headlines put the blame squarely with one man, Silvio Berlusconi. He faces expulsion from the Senate after his conviction for tax fraud was upheld. Ministers from his People of Freedom party threatened to quit once the expulsion process started. The Social Democrats were reluctant about forming a coalition with Berlusconi's party from the start. They say the mass resignation does not surprise them.
It's clear how this abdication of responsibility should be interpreted. Once again, the interests of the country are being subverted by the interests of one man. I almost expected it, but I didn't think they'd be so irresponsible.
The short-lived coalition between Berlusconi's party and the Social Democrats has been marked by disagreement. And after months of wrangling, Prime Minister Enrico Letta says he'll quit if he doesn't get the backing of Parliament in a confidence motion next week. There are fears this new crisis will make it harder for Italy to deal with its economic problems and enact much-needed reforms. The stakes in this political game of chess are very high indeed.
The Israel government has arrested a Belgian-Iranian man accused of spying for the Islamic Republic. The 54-year-old was arrested after making several trips to the Jewish state guised as a businessman. His arrest comes as Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu travels to the U.S. to address the United Nations General Assembly, where he is expected to raise eyebrows about Iran's overthrows over its disputed nuclear energy program.
Israel's government just suddenly released this information, naming the suspect as 55-year-old Ali Mansouri. He's a Belgian citizen now of Iranian ancestry. He came to Israel as a businessman named Alex Mans, and he was shown in several photographs that were in his possession at the time of his arrest. Now, at least one of those photos was said to be a view of the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv. That perked up people's attention. According to the government here, Mansouri was recruited by Iran's Revolutionary Guards and was trying to set up businesses which could then be used to front for an intelligence gathering operation targeting Israel and Western interests here. He was arrested on September 11th as he was attempting to fly from Israel to a destination in Europe. Now, attorneys for the man say they haven't seen all of the specific charges and information against him yet, but they say he's neither anti-Israeli nor pro-Iranian. He's a businessman, they say. Government investigators say Mansour told them he was promised $1 million for his efforts. Now, the timing of all of this, Fanula, this announcement that they had snagged an Iranian spy has really raised some eyebrows. Mansouri, or Mans if you want to call him, could prove embarrassing for Iran as it tries to improve ties with the West. But then, on the other hand, could help Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is trying to warn Washington and the world that Iran is too dangerous a player to allow it to develop nuclear arms. Back to you.
And of course, this news on the back of that phone call on Friday between President Obama and President Rouhani of Iran. What are the media, what are people saying, particularly the government, about this apparent rapprochement between the United States and Iran?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu told his ministers to be quiet about it, because there was a lot of alarm that was being spoken on the right. You had people saying that this was an attack of appeasement that was launched by Mansouri, that the West had fallen for his charm campaign, that they couldn't trust Barack Obama. It got so shrill that Shimon Peres warned everybody to tone it down, saying that it just wasn't required here. But everybody recognizes this could be a potential game changer in the politics of the Middle East. Israelis were concerned, yes, but so too the Saudis, United Arab Emirates, the Gulf states. They're looking on to see, well, what is this going to mean really in the relationship? How might it develop? How might it change Iran's position in the region?
Well, we now take our second break.